Hello, and welcome to The View from Here, a show created by students around the world about local stories that have a global impact. I'm Diana McClott.
I'm Renee Yap.
And I'm Angela Jaikaran. We are from Toronto Metropolitan University in Canada.
I am Luisa Rosa.
And I'm Julia Benefiti. We are from Metodista University in São Paulo, Brazil.
I am Brian.
And I'm Vivian Milhoff from Hong Kong Petrost University.
In this episode of the show, we will take a look at what's happening to the historic and heritage buildings in our three cities.
But first, rising costs and inflation affects university students all around the world. Just like the older generations, we also have to pay for groceries and rent.
The struggles students face are very different depending on where we live.
Attending college is the aspiration of many Brazilians. However, from the moment of enrollment to the achievement of the diploma, there are numerous challenges that students need to face to complete their course.
We talked to the university students to understand what the obstacles are on the journey towards graduation.
Conciliar a rotina de trabalho com os estudos é um desafio que exige foco, disciplina e determinação.
Saio muito cedo de casa para ir trabalhar e volto muito tarde por conta dos estudos. Preciso administrar muito bem o que vou fazer em cada horário.
De acordo com a pesquisa do iDados no Brasil, os jovens de 19 a 24 anos que estudam e trabalham subiu de 45,4% em 2016 para 48,3% em 2019. Ou seja, nas instituições privadas, são cerca de 2,6 milhões de estudantes que enfrentam uma dupla jornada.
Acho que a maior dificuldade que eu enfrento, pelo menos falando da minha parte, é a quantidade de demanda que a gente tem que conciliar dependendo da semana. Essa questão de conciliar, equilibrar o que fazer, quando fazer e onde fazer.
Esses jovens precisam estar atentos para diminuir o cansaço e conseguir aproveitar os benefícios, como fala a estudante de psicologia Júlia Jerônimo.
Um método, uma técnica que eu sempre utilizei que me ajudou muito é pelo menos aos finais de semana reservar ali pelo menos meio período ali do meu tempo para estar colocando as coisas da faculdade em ordem e o período restante para descansar. Ao mesmo tempo em que você tem a bagagem teórica na faculdade, você acaba conseguindo linkar também com a prática, né, nos estágios. Então você acaba entendendo como que a sua área funciona na prática, você acaba colocando em prática, né, o que você aprende, os seus estudos da faculdade.
Apesar de todos os desafios, esse estilo de vida pode trazer bons resultados e, no fim, proporcionar uma boa formação acadêmica e profissional. Débora Prats, para Estúdio Metodista.
Julia and Luisa, how stressful is it working full-time and then going to university at night?
Well, hi Vivian. It is indeed very hard working and studying during the week. For me, the hardest thing is managing my time to be able to do everything in the best way possible.
I know a lot of TMU students also have to work to pay for university, but most go to school during the day and work at restaurants or stores in the evening. I know for myself, I have 2 part-time jobs. I work about 30 hours as well as being a student. I also have things outside of school, so it is pretty hard to balance, but in this economy, you have no other choice. What about you guys?
Yeah, I definitely have to work as well. I'm a part-time student, but I still work quite a bit, and balancing school and work is kind of hard, especially since I'm a server, so I work most nights, and having to wake up early in the morning for school, it can be kind of difficult.
I do find that our peers have part-time jobs, so it's not very uncommon for us to work while we're in school. How about in Hong Kong, Brian?
So Hong Kong has 8 government-subsidized universities. So our fee is typically around 6,800 Canadian dollars or 24,000 Brazilian real a year. The rest, many students work here to pay the fees. Many of us work as the tutors for high school students or in shops or restaurants at the weekends.
So it seems like students all over the world are no strangers to stress, and the COVID pandemic has contributed to the rise in mental health issues for Canadian students.
For many students grappling with the rising cost of living, self-care has become a financial burden and not a priority.
Our next story follows a domestic and an international student at Toronto Metropolitan University who's shedding light on how they navigate their mental well-being.
Since 2020, Canadians between the age of 18 and 25 have reported higher levels of anxiety, loneliness, and depression. With Canada's mental health care system being privatized, many students can't afford the necessary mental health care they need, such as counseling and medication, as it is not covered by the Ontario Health Insurance Plan. As a result, it limits students' options and makes them pay out of pocket.
Well, I've been to a few therapy sessions and they were a little too expensive for me, so I had to find other ways to cope with stress. So usually I'll bring a little soccer ball to school where I just kick it around whenever I have time. I've recently tried puppy yoga and it was helpful, but not enough because the dogs don't talk back to me.
One of the ways that Yusuf copes with stress is by attending a free therapy dog program at TMU. It is known for helping students wind down, connect with themselves, improve their mental well-being, and play with cute dogs. While the program has many short-term benefits, it is not an adequate substitute for needed mental health care support like therapy sessions with a professional. Now, let's hear what one international student has to say about the university-provided student insurance and on-campus counseling services.
I do think it's a really good resource that the university provides. I am on the wait list, which I joined this semester. Right after I quit the therapy that I was in before. I wanted to continue, but what I was told that the waiting list is very long, and it's been sort of 2 months since I applied, so I still haven't gotten a spot yet.
Unfortunately, the average wait times for therapist appointments in Ontario is between 67 and 92 days. In 2020, 1 in 4 hospitalizations among individuals under the age of 24 were a result of mental health conditions. Due to the ongoing mental health crisis, the Mental Health Strategy for Canada has recommended raising the spending proportion devoted to mental health to 9%.
99% of my clients discuss the financial strains. The amount of clients that cancel or aren't able to even start therapy, it's a really big problem. So you're basically asking students and you're asking everyone in general to either be mentally healthy or to live. The fact that insurance is not covering mental health is actually going to affect a lot more people than they realize.
As OHIP is yet to cover essential therapy sessions, students are faced with hourly rates for appointment, ranging from $220 to $250 an hour with a psychologist and $180 to $190 an hour with a social worker.
Here I find that the therapy is quite expensive, and as like an international student who's working minimum wage, I can't really afford therapy right now.
Considering that many students are experiencing a financial squeeze due to the constantly increasing cost of living, students are pushed to sacrifice their mental health.
There are some websites like OpenPath and Psychology Today that offer cheaper therapy. I would always say to not be embarrassed or not be shy to ask if the person is offering cheaper therapy or pro bono session if you feel connected to them.
Due to the rising cost of living, both domestic and international students in Canada must navigate the hard reality of sacrifice, where self-care is a luxury that not many students can afford.
Vivian, have you found the same issues in Hong Kong with students experiencing more mental health problems?
Definitely, we have had a record high number of student suicide in the past few months. That includes colleges, high schools, and grade schools.
We know that the balance between professional and academic life is a reality among many young people in Brazil. Work and studies are a challenge that requires focus, discipline, and determination.
It's necessary to plan schedules and prioritize tasks, setting goals both at work and in studies. Understand the benefits, necessary care, and strategies used by the students to achieve good career and academic development.
A vida acadêmica do Brasil não é fácil. 8,9 milhões de brasileiros cursam ensino superior no país. Mas segundo o mapa do ensino superior no Brasil, apenas 50% desse número terminam o curso. Há muitos desafios, além dos estudos e das provas a serem cumpridos. A permanência na universidade é um processo tão ou mais difícil do que o acesso. Segundo o levantamento do mapa, 55,5% dos alunos desistiram do curso.
Eu acho que, em relação à questão financeira, o que pega é a mensalidade, porque ela acaba sendo um pouco alta. E tem o fato de que você paga por um curso presencial, mas parte dele acaba sendo online. Então, é um pouco estranho essa lógica.
No dia a dia, questões sobre mobilidade urbana também afetam os estudantes. As más condições do transporte público, longas distâncias e até o clima podem atrapalhar as aulas. Além da questão financeira, existe alguma dificuldade, por exemplo, para chegar às aulas?
E relacionado à faculdade, não, porém o clima é a grande questão. Então, se tá chovendo muito, como hoje, que normalmente eu levo 20 minutos, hoje eu cheguei depois de 1 hora. Ou se cai uma árvore, ou se acontece alguma coisa na cidade, ou se tem um feriado. Então, tudo depende de fatores externos, nada relacionado à faculdade em si.
A dificuldade de acesso e permanência no ensino superior prejudica milhares de estudantes pelo Brasil. O Plano Nacional de Educação busca elevar a taxa de matrícula para 50% entre os jovens de 18 a 24 anos. Além da vaga, para entrar na universidade, existem diversos desafios. É preciso pensar no tempo entre as atividades, provas e até mesmo em conciliar com o trabalho.
Muitas vezes a gente, de vez em quando eu tenho que atropelar a coisa, no tempo de trabalho eu estou resolvendo coisa da faculdade, no tempo da faculdade estou resolvendo coisa de trabalho, mas a gente vai levando, a gente tenta controlar o nosso tempo para poder fazer as coisas sem muito aperto, mas de vez em quando uma coisa atropela a outra.
Monique Marquezine, para o Estudo de Metodista.
With the rising cost of living in Toronto, many students are feeling a financial crunch. Rent keeps going up and lots of students are finding it hard to find a place with a reasonable price tag.
Let's look at the ways Toronto students are making ends meet during these difficult times.
Right now, I'm getting a discounted price of $700 a month because I'm paying for a very small room. I just need the bed.
I pay $17.50 a month for rent. Yeah, no, it's a bit cozy, but it's what it is for living alone and downtown.
I was paying $875, but I just got hit with the 2.5% annual rental raise, so that brings us to just below $900, which is like crazy below average, but it's still a lot. It's moldy. It's like I don't have a window in my current bedroom. Anything I'm looking at in my bedroom, in my budget as well, there's just nothing.
Hi, my name's Nicole and this is my apartment. I live in a studio with a roommate and I pay $900 a month. But yeah, we have a kitchen, a shared bathroom, and that's about it. This was all I could afford in the area that I needed to live in because it's close to school and close to work. And the only reason that it works is because we were friends beforehand, so we can live in this studio shared space.
So I live in a housing co-op. My house is one of 30-something houses in the organization. I have 8 other people, so 9 in total in this one house. We share a kitchen and 2 washrooms, but we each have our separate rooms. Sharing amenities is alright only because of the people in this house. When I applied, I specifically asked for not a party house.
Julia, what sort of accommodation is there for students that are going to Methodista, and how much does it cost?
Well, and most of the students that come from the countryside or from another cities far away from Metodista, they end up renting small apartments nearby campus. Sometimes they share it with other people, sometimes they don't, and it costs between 1,300 to 2,000 Brazilian reais per month, and that's without the bills like internet, retail, utilities, and etc.
In Hong Kong, practically all local students live at home if they are not in a dorm. Rent here would at least cost 20,000 Hong Kong dollars for a tiny apartment. That is about 3,500 Canadian dollars. It's almost impossible for the student to afford.
Accommodation isn't the only thing that costs student money. It can also be expensive getting to and from school. But here in Hong Kong, we have a heavily subsidized public transport system.
So for me to get to and from school, for example, I get on the subway and then a bus which costs me a total of around 20 Hong Kong dollars. That is about $3.50 in Canadian dollars.
Well, public transit costs are also going up in the UK. One of our partners for The View from here is Leeds, Trinity University. Commuters in Leeds are being hit with the highest rail fare increase in over a decade, by almost 6% across England and Wales.
Leeds reporter Alistair Lowler reports how commuters have been affected by the increase in price.
According to information released by the West Yorkshire Combined Authority, Leeds has the third most overcrowded train system after London and Manchester. And with bus use falling by 18%, the reliance on trains for students has never been higher. Train strikes becoming more and more regular, it's becoming increasingly more difficult as a student who commutes for their education inside and outside of Leeds.
With the biggest increase in over a decade of 5.7%, it's further stretching the wallet during this cost of living crisis. Speaking with final year student Mohsin Ali, he says it's just another problem with the train system in West Yorkshire.
Yes, so I've been commuting from Berkeley Park to Horsforth for the last 2 years for university, and the prices have definitely increased. I couldn't tell you at what point that change happened, but I do feel like the ticket prices were around £3.30, £3.40 when I started commuting, and they're £4 now. It's a bit of a hassle just having to balance studying and working and having to travel to university as well, with the campus sort of being a little bit further out than most campuses. I can't say that I've taken a train, be it a 5-minute delay or a 10-minute delay, even a 2-minute delay, that's been on time. I think I can count on one hand the number of times I've taken a train that's actually turned up at the time it's supposed to turn up at. The Horsforth one back to Berkeley Park, it's particularly bad for that, especially on an evening once it's hit that 4 o'clock mark, sort of, when it's starting to go back to off-peak times.
Mohsin isn't alone in this problem, however, with delays and ticket increase within West Yorkshire being one of the most affected areas, with Huddersfield, for example, cancelling or delaying 13% of its services between January and July of this year. And the ASLEF union having organised further industrial action over this holiday period, it's looking to be a stressful time for commuters.
Toronto is a city of almost 3 million people, and we have lots of ways to get to school. We have highways, trains, buses, and a subway system. But each of these options comes with its own set of problems, including delays, breakdowns, and congestion.
On getting to school, when I take the subway, it costs around $3, maybe around $3.20, and to take the train, it's around $6, roughly that. So it can be a little costly if you want to get to and from school, especially as a commuter. Our school in particular, TMU, is known as a commuter school, so a lot of students end up commuting instead of staying on campus. So it can be quite expensive for them to just go back and forth.
One thing that's really different around the world is gas prices. Gas here costs about 22 Hong Kong dollars a litre. That is almost $4 Canadian and almost 14 Brazilian real.
That's really expensive, Brian. Here in São Paulo, a liter of gas is about 5.6 real. That is about $1.57 Canadian and almost 9 Hong Kong dollars.
Wow, okay, I thought that our gas was expensive, but it looks like it's the cheapest out of the 3 countries. We pay about $1.48 Canadian. That's about $8.50 in Hong Kong dollars and about 5.32 Brazilian real.
It's not just rising transportation costs that are affecting students. Food prices across the globe are nearly 15% higher than they were in previous years.
Dominic Butler from the Leeds Trinity University in the UK went to his local supermarket to find the prices at an average shop in Leeds.
The cost of the average UK shopper's basket has skyrocketed in the last couple of years. The average cost of living in Leeds is nearly £2,000, which puts it in the top 20% of most expensive cities in the world. And each person is having to spend at least £500 a month on food shops. I spoke to Liam Penny, a student at Leeds Trinity University, about the cost of living crisis.
It hasn't affected me as badly as it would of other students, being that I get the maximum loan given my circumstances of living back home. But even with that being said, of course, the cost of living crisis is affecting everyone, including students, in and around the same level. Food is more expensive, so therefore you're working within a tighter budget.
I'm going to find the price of your classic shopping basket. So, let's go shopping. Before anything, I had to get my shopping list. I chose 8 items I was going to look for: bread, cheese, butter, milk, cereal, eggs, pasta, and of course, a bag of frozen chips. The first item was bread, came in at £1.45. The next item was cheese. I found at the price £2.80. Lovely bit of butter for £2.45. £1.45 for a pint of semi-skimmed milk. A whopping £4 for this box of Cocoa Pops. A dozen eggs for £3.20. A bag of pasta costing you £3.99. And a bag of frozen chips being £1.95. Overall, it cost us £21.24 for those basic 8 items. And these items are nothing compared to what people buy on a full shopping trip. It can get quite expensive for a student here in Leeds, but I wonder what it's like in other countries.
And in Toronto, my classmate Ainsley found out just how expensive it is to have a simple dinner party for her friends.
Alright, I'll see you tonight? Okay, sounds good. Oh, I didn't see you there. Hi, my name is Ainsley and I'm a student at Toronto Metropolitan University. Recently in our community, prices of groceries have gone up exponentially. As you just heard, I'm having a couple friends over for dinner. I'm making them chicken parmesan salad. I can't wait. But I want to do it without breaking the bank. So come with me as I shop for the food and cook for the food and make sure that I don't minimize taste and quality. Let's go. Alright, I'm here. I've got my list, and let's see if we can do this without breaking the bank. Alright, so we're back from the grocery store, and for the 7 items we spent for this one meal, it costed us a grand total of $44.65 for 3 plates of chicken parmesan. That's roughly $15 a plate. That's outrageous. I'm curious to see how much other students in our community are spending on groceries and food, so let's go take a look.
Like $70.
About $100.
I would say for me and my dad, over 100.
Like $150. Snacks, toilet paper, like the necessities.
Some sort of protein and veggies.
Eggs, the meals, the pasta, the meal deal from the metro, also nice.
By myself, never.
For lunch, probably more often. Maybe like twice a week.
Like once a week, I usually go out with my friends.
Sushi, like the good stuff.
I'll say meats have gone pretty expensive. So stuff like steaks and things like that, I can't eat as much anymore.
Yeah, meat is so expensive. Meat and cheese. Yeah, cheese. Like you can't even make a sandwich.
Cheese, so expensive there. I'm from the Netherlands, it's less expensive there. So.
Alright, I'm done cooking my delicious meal for $15 a plate. My friends are here and I'm ready to catch up with them. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Ainsley and this has been The View From Here. Cheers!
You're watching The View From Here, an international student production.
This episode is produced by students from TNU in Toronto, Canada, Metodista in São Paulo, Brazil, and HKBU in Hong Kong.
And with contributions from Leeds Trinity University in the UK.
We've also produced other episodes with students in Johannesburg, South Africa, Fresno, California, and Breda in the Netherlands.
You can watch all of your shows on Facebook and YouTube by going to our website global-campus.org.
All three of our cities, Toronto, Sao Paulo, and Hong Kong, have their share of historic buildings.
That's right, Diana. And here in Hong Kong, there has been some big problems with these buildings. Over the summer, there have been at least 18 reported cases of chunks of concrete falling off old buildings in Hong Kong. In some cases, falling on passing vehicles and causing injuries to pedestrians.
Since then, the government has found at least 13 buildings are in need of repair immediately. But why are these buildings in such a state of disrepair in first place? Our reporter Rennie Zhang take a look.
This is Sun Heng Building, a 57-year-old building located in a busy area of Hong Kong called Mong Kok, a popular shopping district. This summer, chunks of concrete fell from this building, hitting a passing bus and made a hole in the roof of the vehicle. The building is right in front of Nathan Road, where about 25 bus routes stop in front of this building. A store vendor who worked right next to the building said he is not worried about the falling concrete. However, some citizens said concrete falling has safety risks.
都會，梗係會擔心啦，因為啲建築問題嘅話，如果冧落嚟嘅話，好危險，係可以砸死人㗎嘛。
Government figures show that more than 7,500 buildings around Hong Kong like this one are over 50 years old. However, under the Code of Practice on Building Safety, the concrete supporting these structures are generally designed to last 50 years. Outside, the buildings department now have temporary protective scaffolding and removed any loose plaster on the walls to avoid any accidents on the passers-by below these old buildings with cases of concrete around Mong Kok. But inside Sun Heng, you can still see how aged the building has become, with cracks and chunks of concrete chipped away from the wall.
This is what we call spalling work, S-P-A-L-L-I-N-G, spalling. So they have nothing to do with the structural stability per se, but rather to do with some sort of elements attached to the building. That after years of use without proper maintenance, they could actually fall at the time unexpectedly, on your heads and so on.
In 2012, the government implemented the mandatory building inspection scheme to keep old buildings from being neglected. However, when authorities reviewed the list of buildings that did not comply with the scheme in July, they found that 40% of them had expired notices. This indicates that over 2,700 old buildings in Hong Kong that have not had a registered inspector come to inspect or prescribe any repair works.
In this part of town, a 300 square foot apartment recently sold for more than 10 million Hong Kong dollars, which is more than $1 million US. So when an old building like this is pulled down, the owners can get a lot of money for resettlement so that a new one can be built in its place. The older the building, the sooner it will get offers from developers to buy it up. Renee Zhang, TYR News.
So many of our older districts here in Hong Kong seem to be falling apart because the buildings aren't maintained properly. What is being done to address these problems?
The government started the Urban Renewal Authority 22 years ago. Their goal is to address the problem of urban decay, but it's easier said than done. Florence Viada visited the district of Kwun Tong, and this is what she found.
I am standing right in front of Human Square. This is a landmark in the redevelopment of Kwun Tong. So Kwun Tong is a very old district, which was one of Hong Kong's first satellite town back in the 50s. So nowadays, many residential lots were once home for people who used in the factories, and there are some left right there. But nowadays Kwun is more of a mix of some residential blocks and what's left from the factories. So we talked to some residents who live there.
你覺得而家個環境同居住環境同以前比爭幾遠呢？
係有好大嘅分別嘅，因為咧以前咧就冇而家咁現代化咧，都冇咁方便嘅。
Many of the factories are gone because Hong Kong is no longer the manufacturing hub it used to be 40 years ago. Today, that same area is full of residential high-rises, many of which still have either a small factory or shops in the lower floors. That is because most of factories have relocated to mainland China, where the cost of labor is cheaper. Nowadays in Kwun Tong, there are still some shops and garages selling construction materials like these. Many of these shops have been here for decades, though getting them to move out will involve huge compensation. That is the job of the Urban Renewal Authority, a government institution set up 22 years ago with the goal of addressing the problems of urban decay. Since 2007, the URA successfully negotiated all the resettlements, and today it is this glitzy commercial complex, which is called UMN Square. It's part of the Kwun Tong Town Centre Redevelopment Project, which covers more than 500,000 square feet, equal to about 7 football grounds. To improve access for pedestrians, they also built a new public transport interchange with shops and markets near the terminal. However, the project was accused of failing to improve living conditions and harming the sense of neighbour lines.
咁就開咗50幾年，咁你哋有觀察到有啲咩變，有啲咩變化咧喺觀塘區呢一度？
觀塘有咩變化？觀塘以前咧就好多工廠嘅，嗰陣時咧就好好生意嘅。
I actually know about a few buildings that located in the city that I live in, a part in the central part of downtown Toronto, which is highly populated. The older parts of downtown have a lot of buildings that are dilapidating, where roofs are falling in, crushing people. People have to pay for the buildings as well as pay for rent to fix the building. And even recently, I had a situation where a ceiling fell right in front of me and almost hit me when I was walking outside when I was working at a film festival, which is super dangerous. I almost died. But what about you guys in Brazil?
In São Paulo, we actually don't have too many cases like in this year, but I think one of the cases of 12 years ago, one building actually fell off in São Paulo, and it was because the
Structure.
Yes, it was old, and actually a lot of people got hurt.
Yeah, here in Brazil we don't have many buildings falling apart. We actually just have some of them catching on fire, but our foundations are pretty solid. Well, back in the 60s and the 70s, Hong Kong was a major manufacturing hub.
But that's no longer the case because most of the factories have been moved to mainland China.
So many of the food factory buildings have since been converted for mixed residential and commercial purposes. Commonwealth walks us through one such building.
This is Champagne Court, a high-rise with home upstairs and shops downstairs, typical of many of the buildings in the neighborhood. The 65-year-old building was once the tallest landmark in this district called Steam Sartre. Since 1960, it has been a go-to place for camera and photographic equipment. But this is both a commercial and residential building, home upstairs, shops downstairs. Today, only some of the shop space are rented out. More of them offer camera supply of every kind.
通常我哋都會揀翻呢啲環境咁樣，我哋會覺得比較適合啲嘅。最好處就係可以俾到我哋呢啲所謂小商戶可以去營業咁樣咯。 因為嗰個租金啊或者其他費用都可能會平啲咁樣啦。
But cheap ban also mean minimal surface. When there is a water leak or if the roads are peeling off, Billy pretty much had to solve the problem himself because the landlord is not going to help. But then Vinny may not be here for much longer. The store relocation notice has been posted on the road.
In Toronto, commercial and industrial buildings have been repurposed to be residential. So there's something called conversion lofts, which can be typically seen in the western area of downtown Toronto. And there's a building that used to be a candy factory, and there's another that used to be a toy factory.
There were also some cases of people who had art lofts pushed out of their spaces to turn them into residences.
In São Paulo, actually, most of the industries that just fall apart. Right? Yeah, that just fall apart. They just ended up being there and abandoned by the people and the government, actually.
Toronto also has an architectural heritage with some buildings dating back to the late 1700s. Let's take a look at how Toronto is a guardian of historical treasures.
From the Grand Old City Hall, built in 1899, to the unique Gooderham building completed in 1892, these beautiful buildings serve as testaments of the past. When the Old City Hall was finished, it became North America's largest building for civic affairs and the tallest clock in Canada. Similarly, the Gooderham building, often called the Flatiron Building, has many historically significant architectural elements, one of which is Canada's first electric elevator that works to this day. Toronto maintains these historic gems with the help of the Ontario Heritage Act, which mandates all cities to flag, assess, and register all properties with cultural and historical value. As a result, these buildings are put on monitor list and protected from development and demolition threats. Certain buildings undergo rehabilitation, integrating new elements and technologies to adapt to evolving external factors. Others opt for restoration, removing traces of different historical periods to showcase a specific era. A third approach is reconstruction, which involves recreating elements to match the original. Preservation is a final method, and it maintains buildings in good shape. In addition, there are many success stories. The most well-known are the transformations of the popular Brunswick House Pub to a thrift store Value Village and strip club Gillies to the Broadview Hotel. The city also has many examples of buildings that honor the past while embracing the present, where the facade is reconstructed.
Hong Kong also has some very unique colonial-style buildings like the one you showed us in Toronto.
Some of them have been renovated and are used for different purposes today. We went to visit a police station and a prison that is filled with bars and restaurants nowadays.
Victoria Prison, right in the heart of the city, was one where some of Hong Kong's worst criminals served time. It opened in 1925 and was decommissioned in 2006.
This is Hallbeat of the Victoria Prison. In this new exhibition, they showcase the history of the prison and display the prisoners' daily life from the past. They also conduct interviews with former prisoners to share their own stories.
The voices of retired correctional officers, ex-inmates, highlight what it is like to be in prison. The inmates' graffiti are still on some of the walls. Capital punishment in Hong Kong did not end till 1993. For the unfortunate ones, the end of this corridor was also the end of life, because this was a morgue. Today, the prison and police station complex is called Tai Kwun. It is a public space and a tourist attraction.
I love the architecture. There's so many different new buildings and sky rises and, you know, things that you don't see in America very much. So that's pretty cool.
I like that it's such a contrast in Tai Kwun compared to like all the buildings around here. It's just a nice change of scenery. Yeah, I guess.
We're not from a very dense city, and so
the attraction for us here, I think, are architecture, spaces, the type of people, the culture, and it's very busy, very different than what we're used to.
Tai Kwun is also an art space. This exhibition by artist Maria Hasabi, for example, is called I Will Be Your Mirror. The shiny gold surfaces are supposed to represent the innovation and capitalism, on which visitors can reflect upon themselves. Tai Kwun is one of many former colonial buildings in Hong Kong that have been repurposed for modern use.
Many buildings, though, are simply too outdated and have to go. But demolishing homes and usually have deep implications for the people.
Jeffrey Chan take a look at what it makes for folks at one public housing estate.
This is one of Hong Kong's most popular Instagram spots. Choi Hong Estate is home to more than 7,000 families, but it is set for redevelopment. Choi Hong Estate, with its 11 blocks and around 17,500 residents, was built more than 60 years ago. The architecture incorporates elements of the Bauhaus style and has won awards for its design. The design with homes upstairs and shop downstairs was typical of Hong Kong public housing back in the day. Although this community is set to break up, some say it's about time.
不過冇辦法，太過舊啦，真係。有時好多嘢都跌晒落嚟啊！啲天花板啊啲嘢嗰啲，有時啊啲水又唔係咁好啦，去水位啊，真係太過耐咯。
Some shop owners like Mrs. Mark are worried about the government's relocation arrangements.
咁就要睇佢究竟嗰個 location 啦，嗰個地方個地點好唔好？有冇因為而家我度成1000尺，你可唔可以俾翻咁大嘅單俾我？仲要就係係人流會係點咯？因為我見有多房署咧，好多都有時向馬路添啲鋪頭。咁你係將佢歸一喺入邊就好啲噶嘛？你向街就真係唔通真係停車泊位、停車咁買咩？所以向內就好啲，我就睇佢點樣俾咯。
The end of the public housing estate will mean the end of a community.
即係好似彩虹村冇咗個獨特嘅標誌咁，係啊，冇咗景點，冇咗個景。因為呢個係代表彩虹村嘅一啲即係建築物，建築佢有一定嘅紀念價值嘅。有拆咗我就會覺得好可惜咯。
This is my first time for this area, right? I think have the many colorful of this area, and I like feel colorful of Hong Kong from here.
An authority member and executive director of the Federation of Public Housing Estates, Chiu Kok Wai, said the redevelopment would take a decade to complete in stages and could double the current flat supply.
After the government announcement at the end of this year, further details such as early relocation scheme and compensation for affected businesses will be discussed by the Housing Authority Housing Committee. Stay tuned for updates. This is Jeffrey Chen from TYL.
There's such a lack of available housing in Toronto that the vacancy rate right now is under 1%. Because of this, developers are looking for similar creative ways to use buildings.
A lot of the office space is empty, and there's actually a big push to convert some of the high-rise office buildings downtown into apartments.
Here in Brazil, like we said, our buildings are have not that vacancy rate, but many of them are being reused by the government.
We have come to the end of this episode of The View from Here.
And I personally think we all saw many relevant topics here today. And the best part was sharing and knowing that we're not alone, and all over the world, people face the same things as we do here in Brazil.
I like it, the show, and I learned too much about the other countries and everything that is happening in other countries too.
I think the most shocking part about this show that I learned is that Hong Kong, your gas prices are just astronomical. They're so high because where we live in Toronto, we thought it was the highest. So it's interesting to compare all three countries in terms of pricing.
And something that I found interesting was that whether we're in Canada, Brazil, or Hong Kong, we're still working as students, and I think that's pretty admirable for us to do.
Yeah, for sure. I also think that it's like pretty hard for us to balance school and work, but also hearing that the rent is really high in Hong Kong as well, like that was really crazy to me.
We also have 4 other shows that you can watch on our website or YouTube, with stories from students in California and South Africa, the UK, and the Netherlands.
And you can check out our website at global-campus.org.
Thank you for watching.
The view from here.